This is the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Ever wish you could re-listen to your favorite interview or segment? Do you enjoy hearing older shows for the first time in years? Then the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less is just what you need. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. John Solberg here, your host for the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Happy to tell you this show is brought to you by Green Mountain Grills. And for more than 17 years, Green Mountain Grills has brought the smoke to competition scenes and backyards all over the world. Their Venturi-style firebox delivers the cleanest 150-degree smoke in the pellet game. Their newly redesigned Prime 2.0 grills, they blend the proven technology of the past with the technology of the future. GMG also leads the pack in accessory creations. They got pizza ovens. They got rotisseries. They got a ton of rack systems. They even got an add-on side burner. Come on, go check this out and more. Make sure you check out the 2.0 Prime grills over at greenmountaingrills.com. That's greenmountaingrills.com. Steve Ray from Owl's Nest Barbecue sent me a note, said, hey, go find this show, and I want to hear a very specific section of this show. So here, let's go do this show with Kent Rollins.
Ken, let's go ahead and transition a little bit into some of the cooking stuff. From a high level, what are the staples of any good chuckwagon cook?
Well, I think the first thing, and I know when I started cooking, and there was a lot of them old timers that was still there, and they called anybody that was 20 years younger than them a button, and there's a great code of ethics in a cow camp, and you never come under the tarp or the fly around the wagon unless they were invited. And they would just stand off out there, and of a morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to judge you on coffee right off the bat. Now, they're not going to say nothing, but I learned through the years, if they drink 1 cup and they go on, maybe they're not coffee drinkers. But if they drink 6 or 8 cups, it's all right, and it's always sort of been that way. The younger generation, you don't see as many coffee drinkers as you did. They'll break out a bottle of water or something like that. But coffee's first thing on every morning, last thing off. And there's always a need for that as long as the day lasts. I mean, I've kept coffee hot on a fire or on that old wood stove of mine all day long and don't throw it out till nightfall, right before I retire, me and Shan. So it's one of the things that you're really known for. But probably the other is the sourdough biscuits. I used to hear them whispering, when I was first starting, and then they'd say, that guy can cook a biscuit, and it's sure there's an art to cooking it, but there's also an art to making it, because just like old Cookie going down the trail so many years ago, we use sourdough starter in the same way he did. Ours is not traditional that I use a quick set, but still the same. And then they're going to judge you on dessert. They're like I say, they're not going to ever tell you anything, but when they come back and fill that plate 3 times, they don't have to tell you nothing. It's worth eating.
Ken, a lot of notoriety, and maybe I'm just focusing on you because you were the subject of interview this week, but you seem to get a lot of notoriety, especially when it comes to the use of cast iron pieces, whether it be pans, Dutch ovens, things of this nature. Is that more of a Kent Rollins thing, or is really that more of a chuckwagon thing because those are the items that you need to take with you to be a successful cook on the trail?
Well, cast iron been around forever. There's a lot of good cast iron in the United States, and there's some bad. I've really seen a trend as it began to grow in the last 3 to 4 years. But you can buy a cast iron skillet, a good one, something that's made in the USA, and it will outlast every one of us if you take care of it. We have some that have been handed down from generation to generation. And sure, that's what's on a wagon, that and Dutch ovens, because you're going to bake in a Dutch oven. I can fry in a 20-inch skillet. So they've always been a part of my life. My mother had them. My grandmother had them. Every old timer that we knew had one. And to me, there's nothing more, I better not say that. There's nothing any more healthier that you can eat out of than a piece of cast iron, because you're going to absorb iron from it, especially if it's a baked good.
Ken Rollins joining me here on the show. You had prefaced in the previous answer saying that coffee was the first thing on, first thing off. and you can see, in the book, there's Cowboy Coffee on YouTube. There's Cowboy Coffee. You have videos on YouTube of other tools making Cowboy Kent Rollins coffee, and they mention your name like 75 times through. When Cowboy Kent Rollins does the coffee, he does it like this. Now Cowboy Kent Rollins says he does it like this. Can you talk to me about Cowboy Coffee and how you make it and why? I mean, if you've read the book, it might be a little bit of a redundancy here, but for the folks that are just tuning in or just learning about you, what makes boiling coffee a better cup of coffee in your opinion, or from what the folks are giving you feedback. What are they telling you?
Well, everybody said I didn't know it could be this smooth. We've always made coffee the same way. And when you can take one of them big old 2-gallon pots and fill it with water right below the spout, and then add you 3 handfuls of coffee, which is about 2.5 cups, let it come to a rolling boil. Don't boil it over, but a good rolling boil. I'm not talking just a pit and a patter. I'm talking rolling for about 4 or 5 minutes, pretty hard. And then just set it off the fire, let it cool a minute, pour you about a cup of cold water down the spout, and all the grounds will settle to the bottom. Now, after the big lawsuit many, many years ago where somebody got a little hot from some McDonald coffee, most places turned their water down to below about 191, along in there. Now, when you heat coffee on that old wood stove or mine or over an open fire, you're getting well above the 212, I promise you.
I heard it was like 647,000 degrees last I heard.
Yeah, that is right. And but when you do, you break down the tannin in the bean, which removes the acid. Because people say, oh, I'd love to drink coffee, but it gives me acid indigestion or it gives me acid reflux. And I say, if you make it right, it won't. And folks, I've had so many comments on YouTube from Cowboy Coffee through the years. They'll guarantee it. We did a special 2 years ago with Jeff Goldblum on just coffee. And he told me, he said, I didn't know coffee could be this smooth. And I said, if you make it right, it'll always be smooth.
Who's the most interesting person you've run across during your years here, outside of the Cowboy stuff? But you've been on television, you do a lot of public-facing events. It doesn't necessarily have to be a celebrity, but who really captured your fascination as you were talking to them?
Find out what Ken had to say over at the BBQCentralShow.com. Man, I remember Greg trying to line all this up. Maybe he's talked about it on his lead up during the big show. Greg, what was this cat's name? Cletus? This guy's PA? Cletus, or some Billy Bob guy that you had to talk to? I can't remember. Maybe you can remember. I could go back in the shows and pull that. Maybe I'll do a show about trying to get Kent Rollins on the show. Anyway, Steve, thanks so much for the suggestion. I appreciate it. If you got a suggestion for me out there, hit me up, John, Jon, John at the BBQCentralShow.com. Man, that's my time. Man, I'm having a hard time hitting marks these days, aren't I?